Hello and welcome. A couple days ago, I did my first video on YouTube. Talking about my life and whatnot. And so yeah, if you're here for the first time, please, this whole video series is going to be in sequence, like a movie. For example, you need to watch it from beginning to end to get the whole story. So I'll put that link in the description for the first video, or you can just go through the channel. I've only just started, so it's only one video, and this will be the second video. And obviously for the people, if you've come back now for the second time, thank you. And let's get started. Okay, so on the board here, I've written out who David R. Hawkins is. Last week, I explained how this video is going to be about the map of consciousness, which is based off his book, Power vs. Force. Okay, so who is Dr. David R. Hawkins? He was born in June 3rd, 1927. His education was psychiatry, where he got his MD and his PhD. So this was an individual that was very much part of the analytical, community. Psychiatry and spirituality are not really connected in most cases. He was a director of the Institute of Spiritual Research. He was a director of North Nassau Mental Health Center. And he also lectured at universities like Harvard and Oxford. So he had, quite an impressive resume. And he practiced psychiatry for 50 years. So it's definitely somebody to pay attention to and what he says, not some quack that's, just giving out random information online, or, this guy, he knew what he was talking about. Okay, so on the board here is the map of consciousness. This is in the book, just to give you a very abbreviated version of the book. I mean, if you want to and you're interested in reading the book, you can go online. It's easy to find. I highly recommend that you do to get a full understanding of the subject. But even if you don't, this is enough, I think, to get you up to par with what's going to be mentioned on my channel now and going forward. So you'll see on the left, there's a measurement, a calibration of consciousness ranking from 20 to 600. It actually goes above 600, but it's not really necessary for the sake of this video. And you'll see in the first column, this is basically each consciousness level and the life view that's attached to each level. So, each person that ranks in this certain level of consciousness will have a certain life view that dominates their perception. So if you take a look here, you can see at 20, life view is miserable. At 30, life view is evil, and so on and so forth. You can pause the video if you want to, go through all of these different things that I've written down on the board. Now, the thing that is the most shocking and the thing to pay attention to the most is that 80% of the global population is under the 200 level. Now, inside of Dr. Hawkins' book, he talks about how from the 200 level going above, that's when people have a more positive outlook on life. And from below 200, that's people that are basically, in a nutshell, they're suffering on some level. Nobody actually wants to be below 200. Because as you can see, the different types of life view that's attached is like demanding, antagonistic, disappointing, frightening, tragic, hopeless, evil, miserable. This is like, the emotions that are attached to this, below 200 is like anger, resentment, hate, judgment, pride. A lot of these emotions is what's keeping people stuck. I mean, that's why 80% of people is below, because it's due to a lot of factors. 80% of people are not breaking above the 200 level. And so that's a breakdown just to give an overview of what the Power Verse Force book is. And now I'm going to actually explain or give examples in a real life situation how this impacts everybody, because there's something called the collective consciousness. So basically the 80% that I showed you was showing that 80% of the population, the collective consciousness, is below 200. You have your own consciousness, and if you don't know what the word consciousness is, another word to describe consciousness is like awareness. What are you aware of? What's going on around you and inside of yourself? So the analogy I want to give you to explain how those consciousness levels work is if you think about a radio has a knob, okay, or depends on the buttons or whatever, doesn't matter. And it can connect to different frequencies. And depending on which frequency you tune into will depend on the information that you're receiving. So for example, just giving a number out there, you tune into 97.1 and you get the news. Now, when we think about most of the information that's given on the news, would you say it's a higher consciousness kind of information you're getting, or lower consciousness? I'm sure you know the answer. Then you can tune into a station where maybe it's more of like a upbeat, funny kind of podcast or something, or a show where they maybe prank people and it's funny, and that'll make you feel different compared to the first example that I gave. And so basically that's an example. So depending on which frequency you tuned into will depend on your experience in life. And for you, that is what is real for you. That is your truth, and you won't know any different. So, when it comes to people around us, something to consider, and I know it's not that easy, even for myself, when I was going through this process of, raising my consciousness and healing myself. This is very challenging, but this is the 1 + 1 = 2 type of situation. So when you think about this and you remember it, maybe you won't react as much to somebody, because now I'm going to use another example. Like an animal. Animals on the consciousness scale, if you actually read Dr. Hawkins' book, he speaks about how animals are obviously very low on the consciousness scale because they're animals. So just like, we can't get upset at a lion for being a lion, going for an animal and hunting an animal and killing it. That's what it knows. That's what it needs. That's its truth. And, with this information, to know this stuff maybe it can help us even before, any of you try to, whether you decide to do it or not, even if before even trying to go through all the information that I'm going to share on this channel, just to keep that as like a baseline of information, to treat your neighbors maybe a little bit better, or not to react as much to people, because at the end of the day, 80% of people globally are suffering in some way. And so the next thing I want to share is actually based off quantum physics. So We live in we live in on Earth, and most people only see what's in front of their eyes, what they can see, and for them that's reality. But there's so much more happening that we don't see, and this is the reason why we're stuck, because we don't know this stuff. So we live in a universe where everything is electromagnetic. We are electromagnetic beings. Everything in the universe is based off electricity and magnetism. So how does that apply to us? And how does that apply to what I was saying about the map of consciousness? So here's an example. Just excuse my drawing, it's a little stick man. But like I said in my previous video, I have no artistic skills, so bear with me. We have this man here. We call him John, okay? John is unfortunately one of those people that falls into the 80% category. So, let's say most of his dominant emotions and energy is negative. So John hates his job, or hates a certain situation, but we'll just use a job as an example. So he goes to his job, he comes home, and now he's not happy. He's angry, he's miserable, and as we know, we've all made that same mistake, myself included. Everybody does it. We tend to take things out on loved ones, or somebody cuts us off in traffic, you end up shouting, or not even shouting, but you have some type of reaction. So he comes home, he's got his wife and his kids. Okay? And not knowing what he's doing, even though inside of ourselves maybe we do know it's wrong, because often when we fight with each other or fight with people, we apologize. But we actually don't know the real effect on an electromagnetic scale of what we're doing to each other if we constantly, for example, John comes home, he's upset, he takes it out on his wife. Now he's projected to his family those negative, electromagnetic frequencies, which can also be called energies, emotions. It's all the same thing. So now this is now affected his wife or his family. And this is obviously a very mild version. We can see how this can get far worse when it comes to, abuse. And this is like day-to-day stuff. It can happen all the time. Never mind the fact that, in my last video I mentioned, or my first video, how it's been proven in science that transgenerational trauma gets passed down, multiple generations to the next generation. So you've got to factor that into the equation, plus your day-to-day stuff. Maybe also he's had his own trauma in his own life, whatever that can be. Maybe he was, he went to the army, or he was a police officer previously, and, he witnessed some things that was not very, that people, in my opinion, not just my opinion, but just on a consciousness level, those type of situations, how they affect people. So you factor all that into the equation, plus this scenario, plus transgenerational trauma, which most people have no idea about. And you can see how this can, multiply and accumulate. And then, what's the result of that situation? This is, it's depleting your energy. It's depleting your mental state. It's depleting your health. It's not new news that they say stress, is like the main killer. So this is just like a very rough version of why civilizations, well, the global population's consciousness level is so low. And so factor in all things like trauma, day-to-day stress, and specifically this, taking things out on each other and projection. This is actually two concepts I want to mention. So this is concepts that, well, how I see it. Number one, we are either manufacturing and or projecting. In this scenario, John projected his negative energies onto his family. This, in turn, obviously there was so whatever his view is on life and work and whatever, that's where he's manufacturing these. He's allowing the manufacturing process to take place, and not processing those feelings in the correct way, which I'll get into later. And then he's projecting it onto his family. Now he's caused his wife to maybe manufacture as a reaction to what him taking out his frustrations or whatever onto his family. Now he's also done the same to his kids. And this is a vicious cycle that's been going on for, who even knows, thousands of years. And when we look at history, people will say, oh, history repeats itself. Here's why. It's a vicious loop over and over. And it's not like I'm saying, nobody knows this stuff. We don't get taught this stuff. So it's understandable. I then came across a video of David Hawkins where he actually explains the correct way to process, these type of emotions, because it's normal as a human to, feel these different emotions from good to bad. It's part of being a human being. And in this video, he explains whatever event happens to you, whether mild or tragic, obviously they'll have varying degrees of effects on you or on us. And he talks about the problem we have is that this is what I understood from his video, is this. There's manufacture emotions, we don't know how to process it correctly, and it causes us to overthink about things, which is amplifying that feeling, because that's what it does. The feeling, we feel something first, and it makes us think certain things, and then that's just basically also a vicious loop back and forth. So his suggestion is that when something tragic happens, whether you're stressed out, somebody cuts you off, whatever, the same principle applies to all of it. You need to sit on your own, probably is the best, where you have no distractions around yourself. I would suggest in like a dark room by yourself. And you need to sit in whatever that feeling is. Doesn't matter what it is. You need to sit and focus on it. You have to get out of your head space and into your body space. And you need to feel it in its purest form for as long as it takes until that feeling dissipates and it goes away. And how will you know it's dissipated and it's gone? Well, you can see by the quality of your thoughts. If you're still thinking about it and it's bothering you, then you need to carry on doing it. Now, it can maybe take, depending on the severity of the event that's happened, some events will require more of doing that and some less. And one of the other biggest factors that, even if we are honest with ourselves, around ourselves, people, friends, family, especially men, mostly men, we've lost the ability to feel. Oh no, that's not correct. No, that is correct. To feel. Feelings. Sorry, I'm a little bit sleepy today. Didn't sleep the best last night. Anyway, yeah, so this is important. This is exactly what Dr. Hawkins is saying in his video. This is, even myself, when I was younger, up until I started doing all this work, I was the same. I used to push all feelings aside. And I thought that's the way you dealt with it. That will go away by itself. But it doesn't go away by pushing it away. When you have to face it, and that's how you face it. You got to sit in it until it goes away, until that feeling dissipates. So if it's pain, if it's anger, if it's hate, it doesn't matter. All of these emotions are part of being a human. It's okay to feel these emotions, but this is how we process it. You have to feel it to its core until it goes away. And, another important factor for, us to stop doing, based off what I explained about the map of consciousness, is judgment. We need to get away from doing that, judging other people, because like I explained earlier, people don't know any better. So just by doing this and trying to be more understanding, it helps us. There's a quote that I like to say. I can't remember if I heard it from somebody else or if I just thought of it on my own, but it doesn't matter. Forgiving other people is the most selfish thing you can do. Forgiving other people is the most selfish thing you can do. No, I think I heard that from someone else. I just can't remember where. And why is that? Well, because of this. It's a way to also release that in a healthy way. No judgment. Forgiveness. Put you in no. So now to go back to my first video, because this is why I mentioned it's also important to follow these videos in sequence. I mentioned how there was a curse placed on my family. Now I can actually break down. It's easy to now break it down actually what a curse is. So let's. I'll make some space here. First of all, let me start by saying this. In quantum physics, okay, there's also like a saying where attention goes. I don't know why my handwriting always just automatically gets so big. Attention goes, energy flows. So yeah, when it comes to a curse, the same way how 50 plus years ago, if you had asked somebody if it would be possible, for two people to speak on a device each that had no cables or no wiring, that they would be able to have a conversation across the world, they would have told you you're crazy. And how does it take place? It takes place with frequency. It takes a place with the same concept, electromagnetic energy. And this is the same with people. We are electromagnetic beings. We are constantly giving off, energy. And when you take this into consideration, energy goes where attention goes, energy flows. A curse is just basically an intention because also thoughts is where attention comes from. intention, whether it's good or bad, you know, can have an effect. Yeah, so it's basically unprocessed electromagnetic energy. And obviously, this is a very simple version. If you go research about it, I'm sure you'll find how they do these things, and they send and they use this concept to do it. It's the same principle when it comes to transgenerational trauma. It's all of this negative electromagnetic energy that's been passed down to somebody else. So whatever those people experienced in their lives, it was like a lot of anger, hate, and all those emotions that come with that. You know, that's all the same thing. All the same thing. So there's also two small principles that you can also incorporate, which ties into what I said a little while ago about forgiveness and non-judgment. Is you practice. Now this is just this is the basic information that's going to be on this channel. As we get into later, there's far more practical things to implement. That's practical tools to use in order to get this correct. But just from a mental perspective, when you're in a situation and you're faced with somebody in one of these scenarios, you have to accept what's going on. So what does that mean to accept? Well, you're taking a step back to look at the situation based off the information I've given in this video with the map of consciousness and how people don't know any better, don't know what they're doing. To them, that's the reality. That's how they should be. And so instead of reacting, accept this. Take a step back, take 2 seconds, or however long it takes. You accept the situation. And then, just inside of your mind, you send that person love and healing. And now, to you in the moment, maybe it doesn't feel like you've done anything, because we're stuck in this third dimensional reality where we only, most people only judge what they see with their own 2 eyes. But on an electromagnetic consciousness scale, this is going to have an effect, especially when you have a lot of people that take this idea and implement it. So you send them love and healing after you accept whatever's happening. And by doing this, this is what they call transmuting. You take in negative energy or negative electromagnetic frequency, whatever you want to call it, and you're taking an opportunity to turn it into something positive. And this is a huge step. I only learned this later on in this journey. But if you can keep this in mind in the beginning, that's a huge step forward. This is already from this, you'll be doing what 95% of people don't do, in my opinion. Yeah, so that's basically it for this video. In the next video, I'm going to explain the 3 sessions that I had with a plant medicine, and what I was shown about myself and my family with all of this. And yeah, I just want to leave you with just something to think about. I want you to know that you have power. We have power to make a change where it doesn't require external factors, external situations. We make the change inside of ourselves. So with that in mind, when you think about tomorrow, just remember, today you decide what frequency to take in tomorrow. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.